Welcome, everybody. I would like to just share with you this amazing interview that we're about to have. We're going to be talking about relationship marketing, social media, all those kinds of good things. And I know that everybody's kind of interested in this because with our society today, we're all connected. We're all on Facebook and all these different social media venues. And we're all trying to figure out ways to connect with each other and be authentic in this world of electronics. So our interview today is going to be a lot of fun. And I'm really pleased to share with you today, Kevin Knebl. He's a fellow speaker and he has so much expertise in this realm. And I'm going to share with you what attracted me to him in the first place. So we're going to get a lot of value out of this conversation today. And just for everybody who's new to the show, you might be kind of wondering, why is a financial advisor having this kind of a conversation? And I decided that this podcast is all about adding value. And so today, what I wanted to talk about is how do we build these relationships? Because it doesn't matter if it's your family, if it's your business, if you work for a company, these connections and how we relate to people, it informs our whole life. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm very pleased to share it with everybody. So let me get right to it and introduce you to Kevin so that you know kind of the background, because he's pretty amazing. And this will unfold as we go through the interview. But Kevin is CMEC, an international speaker, author, trainer, and executive coach. And his clients are all the way from individuals to small, medium, and Fortune 500 companies. So basically, Kevin has this whole relationship thing down. He's a very in demand on social media selling, relationship marketing, LinkedIn, Twitter. And the fun part that I really like about Kevin is he spends a lot of time being inspirational, having transformational insight, and some humor blended in. So that makes it, enjoyable as well. So we're gonna get to that today. One of the things that's really unique that I wanted to share with Kevin before we jump in is he has the most individually handwritten client recommendations on LinkedIn, like worldwide. So this is how good Kevin is, because like the one thing in marketing you always ask somebody is, would you recommend me to somebody else? And the answer for Kevin is absolutely yes. So with that being said, Kevin, welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Tara. It's great to see your smiling face in beautiful Colorado.
So and it's just fun for everyone who's out there. I met Kevin first in Colorado, and now I've just found out that he's looking at the ocean as we're sitting here doing this interview in beautiful Oregon. So you got to love this ability to communicate. So we're just going to jump right in here, Kevin. So with my military background, I learned in my career to be very technically competent at what I was doing, to be mission focused. And sales was just not part of the training. Like you just did the job. Right. And when I was starting my business, had to do this networking thing where I had to go and talk to people. And what drew me to you is that you were like, sales doesn't have to be like this awkward, ucky car salesman thing. It's about building relationships, meeting people where they are and providing value. But can you just talk a little bit about that? Because that was what really drew me is I have this thing that I do and I want to help people. And then we have to do this sales stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And what you experience there is not uncommon at all. Most people that are in business, they didn't wake up one day and say, I can't wait to get in sales. What they did is they say, oh, I like doing this. I'm a financial advisor or I'm a coach or whatever. And then they go, oh, wait a minute. I have to get clients. And then they realize I didn't sign up for this, right? But you did sign up for this when you decided to become a sole proprietor or a business owner or whatever. So I used to be a piano player in the New York City area. It's a completely different line of work. I never in a million years would have imagined that I would get in sales. But I was a pianist. And then in the early 90s, when I started having mouths to feed, I realized I needed to change careers because as a piano player just didn't make enough money. Al Gore had not invented the internet yet. So I got the newspaper, the help wanteds, I found a job, but the only jobs I could find were 100% commission sales jobs. I didn't even know what that meant.
Wow.
But so I cut off my 18-inch long hair. I've since grown it back. but I cut off my 18-inch long hair, and I went to work in sales. But I had some great mentors who taught me, and it's really important that your viewers hear this next part. They taught me, Kevin, no matter how good you get technically at your profession, that is no guarantee of success. And when I first heard that, I went, that doesn't make sense to me, because I was very naive. By the way, most people are very naive. And I said, well, wouldn't the person that makes the best pens have the most successful pen business? And they said, well, look around, Kev. The world is full of people that are good at what they do, but they still struggle to bring on clients and receive referrals. So they said, don't not be good at what you do, but understand that your success is a combination of being good at what you do and being able to create sincere and authentic relationships with people. So I never really studied sales skills. I went and got Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People from back in the 1930s. I started studying communication skills, relationship building skills, and I was very blessed. I went from never having sold a thing in my life to becoming the top salesperson for 4 different companies in 4 different industries. I was the top salesperson in the world for an international consulting company in 15 countries. I say all of that just to say this: all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to people that they know, like, and trust. I heard that from a guy named Bob Berg back in the 90s. So everything that I'm teaching is about how do we create sincere and authentic know, like, trust. If we can do that, and it's really quite simple, if we can build know, like, trust and combine that with the technical aspect of our profession, the sky's the limit.
So let me ask a question in there. And I love that, because you talk about the know, like, trust, and I want people to really hear this. Yeah. But I'm probably not alone. But like in my military experience, I kind of had to develop a little bit of armor and a thick skin, because I was kind of in a field where I wasn't necessarily wanted.
Yeah.
And so I had to get over this idea that it's not a popularity contest, and I couldn't, like, being liked couldn't be the most important thing.
Right.
But now that I'm in a business and I'm building relationships and offering a service, this being liked all of a sudden becomes a lot more important. But so how do you do that where you want to be liked, but authentically? Like, you don't want to be someone you're not so that people will like you. So I'll just throw that in the mix as you're talking about know, like, trust.
Yeah, that's a good question. And when I say liked, I'm not saying be a people pleaser. I'm not saying, try to be the coolest person in the room. What I'm saying is, we tend to like people that like us, right? So how do we like other people? It's really very simple. In the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, written back in the 30s, the 1930s, one of the 30 principles in that book, and it's a very easy book to read, but the book consists of 30 principles. One of the principles is take a sincere interest in other people. Now, that might sound like common sense, but common sense isn't common. So when we create an elevator pitch, that's not a sincere interest in people. When we fine tune our marketing, that's not a sincere interest in other people. When we update our LinkedIn profile, which we should do, that's not a sincere interest in other people. What's a sincere interest in other people is when we don't make it about us, when we just ask normal questions, and it's not that we don't have an agenda. I mean, yeah, you want to grow your business. I get that. But if you understand that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to people they know, like, and trust, then your primary goal is to show the other person that you sincerely care about them as a person and not as a prospect.
Right.
That's key. And that's not semantics. You see, I'll say one more thing and then I'll shut up.
No.
Every interaction we have with another person, whether it's face-to-face, email, Zoom, 2 cans in a string, smoke signals, it doesn't matter what it is. Every interaction we have conveys a feeling. Now, listen to that, what I just said, viewer, because that's true. Every interaction, from you buying a cup of coffee at the 7-Eleven there's a feeling that's conveyed between you and the cashier, or when you're meeting with a prospect in your business. What most people don't understand is that every interaction conveys a feeling. Well, don't try to convey the right feeling. Just take a sincere interest in other people, and the feeling will automatically be conveyed. When you're sincerely listening to somebody and not just trying to formulate your reply or try to look smart, when you're really intently listening, there's a feeling that's conveyed and the other person can feel it, and that starts to build the know, like, trust. Does that make sense conceptually, Tara?
No, it totally does. And so then that leads me to my next question. And I ask because for folks that are wanting your help, this is another dot to connect, is I find it's very easy to build those connections with people and have those conversations. But the link that gets missing to me in my business is I form this relationship, and this is a person I can be best friends with, but then they don't make the link to do business with me.
Right.
And I think it's because I so much hate sales, where I do authentically like people and I want to help them, but connecting, how do you connect that last dot?
Yeah, that's a very common question. It's an intelligent question. So
the best kind.
Would it be okay if I explained briefly my 3-step system for success?
That would be, yes, absolutely.
Because
we all like steps. 3 steps is great.
this will tie into the answer to your question. Okay.
Okay.
So the way it looks to me, and I'm not trying to say, oh, this is, universal truth. I'm just saying the way it looks to me, and I would challenge you folks that are watching this, try to poke a hole in what I'm about to say next. Okay. I just haven't met anybody that's been able to poke a hole in it, but try to. The way it looks to me is no matter what you do for a living, it doesn't matter, because the statement, all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to people they know, like, and trust. That statement is not industry specific, geographically specific, whether there's a Republican or a Democrat in the White House, whether there's coronavirus. The statement, it stands on its own. All things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to people they know, like, and trust. I've never met anybody that disagreed with that, because I think you'd have to be a special level of stupid to disagree with that. Okay. So here's how it looks to me. After coaching countless people, after becoming very successful in sales and blah, 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 it looks to me like there's really only 3 steps to succeeding in any profession. Okay. Step 1. You have to have ways to both find the people you want to work with and for the people that you want to work with to find you. Because no matter how good you are at what you do, if you can't get in front of the right people, you're basically an expert on an island somewhere with a volleyball named Wilson. Okay. So in a world where we have the internet and things like LinkedIn and Facebook, step 1 is the least of our problems. I mean, if I wanted to turn on my camera right now and show you LinkedIn, I could show you how to find your best prospects almost down to eye color in 60 seconds. Okay. And then I could also show you ways for them to find you without it being a heavy sales pitch. So first step, you have to have ways to find people. People have to have ways to find you. Once you find them, or once they find you, then you go to step 2. You have to have simple ways to engage them in a conversation without them telling you to go take a hike. This is the step where most people innocently drop the ball. And there's a lot of reasons why people drop the ball, but the primary reason is because people do not understand how bad their commission breath smells. Most people do not understand how salesy or desperate they're actually coming across. And the reason they're coming across salesy or desperate is because they're not taking a sincere interest in people. They have an agenda, right? And then they start to bring out the elevator pitch, or they bring out this or that. And people don't talk in elevator pitches. People talk in conversational English, right?
Yeah.
So, spending a lot of time trying to fine tune an elevator pitch is probably not the most effective use of time. So the first step is you have to have ways to find people. People have to have ways to find you. The second step is once you find them, or once they find you, you have to be able to get them to talk to you without them telling you to, beat it. And then once you've done that, there's really only one step left. And this ties into the answer to your question. You have to have ways to stay top of mind with people without being a pest. What most people do in an attempt to stay top of mind with their prospects and their referral sources is they basically talk about themselves a lot. And then they wonder why they're just met with resistance, because talking about yourself a lot is not taking a sincere interest in the other person. Okay. So I teach some very simple ways to build some know-like trust. And then once some know-like trust has been established, and not until some know-like trust has been established, once it's been established, then it becomes very easy to move the conversation from non-business matters to business matters. Let me say one more thing and then I'll come up for air. If I am trying to figure out how to bring my services into a conversation with somebody before they start asking me about my services, by definition, I'm forcing my services on the other person. I just described what 99.99% of people in business do every day. But when you take a sincere interest in people and you ask them sincere questions about what they do for a living, in addition to non-business matters, they will typically start to ask you questions about what you do for a living and non-business matters. So it's a long-winded answer, Tara, to say the reason why it's difficult for most people to bring into the conversation what they do is because they're bringing it in too early. Now, I'm not saying you should make small talk for months. What I'm saying is, if you have a little back and forth rapport, it's not difficult to say, hey, Tara, I'm really enjoying getting to know you. If I had something that I think could help you, and I have sufficient reason to believe that I think I could help you, would you want me to tell you about that? You're probably going to go, yeah, I'd want you to tell me about it. And then and if I were a financial advisor, at that point, I'd say, please don't take this as a sales pitch. That's not how I mean it. But I've been very blessed to help a lot of people secure their financial futures, put their kids in college without having to, sell the house. And I have a couple tips that I'd love to throw your way. You may like them, you may not like them, but I would sleep better at least knowing that I shared a couple things with you that I think that would help you. Now you have completely set the table for a conversation about how you could help them in a much more level way, instead of trying to get your foot in the door with some elevator pitch. So the reason people struggle in business is because they do things that are unnatural. Actually, Tara, refresh my memory. Your spouse is Chris, right?
Yes.
When you first met Chris, were you attracted to Chris?
Maybe. I think we met at the gym. And so, it's kind of one of those slow things where you're like, oh, there's a person there. And then you have those conversations and then, yeah.
But at some point you were attracted to Chris.
Sure.
When you were attracted to Chris, did you immediately grab him and start kissing him?
No.
Why not? Why not? You were attracted to him. Why didn't you do that?
Well, that's just not how things are done.
Exactly. Because it would have been crazy, right? What you did was you started a conversation.
Right.
That escalated to a cup of coffee, a movie, a dinner, and eventually you kissed. So those 3 steps that I just outlined, those 3 steps are the same in business as they are outside of business. But and I know this sounds philosophical, but it's not. It's the most practical thing a business person could understand. What most people do in business is so unnatural. They're going out, they're trying to find their prospects, and then they're going to seduce their prospects with their elevator pitch or whatever. That's not natural. What's natural is find your prospects, start a conversation, take a sincere interest in them, and when a little rapport is built, then bring your services into the conversation. That is infinitely more natural. So I know this sounds philosophical, but the reason people struggle in business is because they're trying to break the natural order. They're trying to go from meeting to marriage in 5 minutes. That's insane.
Right,
That's
right.
crazy. If you look around at what most people do in the sales process, it's ridiculous. Why don't we just do the same thing we do in our normal life? Find the people, take a sincere interest, build a little rapport, and then say, I think I have a couple things I might be able to help you with. If I could share a couple tips that would help you, would you want me to share them with you? Yeah, I would want you to share them with you. Great. Let's schedule a conversation, and I can assure you it won't be a sales pitch.
I love this conversation because I'm in the process of writing my book.
Mhm.
And I just went through and I had 20 different people, advanced readers, give me feedback. And it really ties into what you're saying about step number one. And for people watching, they need to understand you can help them with this. It's really that step of understanding who you want to connect with and who you can help. That's a big step. And for me, what I've realized is in my natural communities with my horseback riding and then in the military, those are really not the communities that necessarily want my help, because it tends to be a lot of do-it-yourselfers, engineers. And it's been interesting to go, okay, well, I want to help people and I know I can help people, but connecting with the people that want your help, because isn't that better than trying to force your help on people that are like, I'm good.
When anything that's forced has a very small chance of succeeding. Now,
And
that sounds philosophical, but it's not. It's just common sense.
It kind of is, but I think, can you just touch on that a little bit more? Because that's one of the things that was helpful for me, and I'm still learning it actually, is because the way you talked about, like, I can sit down and show you how to connect with the people. Like, that's a skill that you have that's not a normal thing that people know. And like, can you just give people, like, touch on that? Because like for people listening, that's a huge value that you offer is, how do I go, I have this thing that I can help people with. How do I connect with those people that need and want my help?
Well, if you're going to go fishing, it would be smart to go where the fish are.
Right.
So let's talk about LinkedIn for a second. LinkedIn launched 18 years ago, right? And ironically, I got on LinkedIn 60 days after it launched, not because I saw the future. I just happened.
Right.
When I looked at LinkedIn, I said, this is a rolodex. This is a worldwide business rolodex. And I never imagined that ultimately I would leave my sales career and become a speaker and write books and be on television. Life is funny. But it's not hard to go on LinkedIn and start to input parameters, geography, job title, years of experience, college the person attended, keywords in their LinkedIn profile. There's many ways to do this.
Right.
I could show your viewers how to find their ideal prospects down to eye color in about 60 seconds. Okay.
Right.
And there's value in that, because obviously you want to get in front of the right people. So it's not difficult to find the community that you want to serve. The challenge for most people is, how do we initiate a conversation with those people without it being a sales pitch?
Right.
So I just want to make sure I'm answering the question you asked. How do we find the people? Well, you don't have to get tape on your glasses and become a nerd. It's just learning a couple of tips. I mean, I could go on Twitter right now and I could find everybody within 20 miles of your office that's used the word financial, retirement, investments in a tweet. And I could find that in 30 seconds, and I could put it on autopilot, so that every morning when you woke up, you would have a list of all these people mentioned matters that I know a lot about. They're all within 20 minutes of my office in Colorado Springs. Okay, that would be one of many ways to accomplish step one. I could do the same thing on LinkedIn. I could just go into Sales Navigator. I could put it on autopilot. You tell me the kind of people you're looking for. I input it in 30 seconds. It's literally on autopilot for the rest of your life until you tell LinkedIn to stop. So lead generation, that whole lead generation thing, that's never been easier. The challenge for most people is, now that I found the people I want to serve, how do I start talking to them? Well, here's my answer. Talk like a normal human being. Get rid of the commission breath. Find something in their profile that maybe you have a commonality about, and just imagine it was somebody you met at a cocktail party. If I met you at a cocktail party, Tara, I would just ask you a couple simple questions. you would start telling me about you, and I would naturally go in those directions without making it about my speaking or coaching.
Right.
Because when you met Chris and you were attracted to Chris, even though you were attracted to him, you didn't grab him and start dragging him, toward the altar. You just started a conversation.
Right, right.
And that's the hardest part for most people, is that they have commission breath. It's like everything they say, they don't realize it, but it's all this commission breath stuff. Just, take a deep breath, relax, take a sincere interest in the other person. When you take a sincere interest in the other person, as I said earlier, it conveys a feeling. That's what we're looking for. See, most people don't realize that. You're in the feeling business, but people don't think of it that way. Oh, I'm a financial advisor. I know a lot about money. Then how come you're not a billionaire?
Yeah, and you're so right, because that's one of the big things as I'm writing my book is money is so much more emotion than math.
Of course.
It has so very little to do with the investments, and it's all about the financial baggage that you have, the baggage that you don't know you have, and the relationships with your partner. And so that's, I love this conversation, and man, we're almost out of time. So what I want to do is just a really quick recap, because Kevin, you have shared so much content with us today. And the first thing we talked about is you want to create someone that know, like, trust. And I'm thinking about it in terms of, well, yeah, that's what I want. I want to do all things equal. I want to work with somebody that I know, like, and trust. I don't want to work with the person that makes me feel stupid, or the person that cuts me down. So it, as you say it, of course, it's obvious, and it's just trying to figure that out. And when you're starting your business, it's kind of like, I think you touched on it, where you know what you're good at, you know what your business is, if you're a doctor or you're a hairdresser, whatever your business is. Right. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, now I have to get clients. Right. And you feel that pressure. And so when you're operating from that place of pressure, then that's not the ideal space.
That's correct.
So I love this know, like, trust. So for the folks listening, make sure that you reach out to Kevin, because he can talk about that. And then you have this 3-step process, right? So as people, that appeals to my tech side. Step 1, step 2, I can do steps. So I love that you have those steps. And you touched on it, but I remember when you talked when we first met about how, like, with social media and LinkedIn, you have this rolodex that's out there to the world. Like, you're not having to sit there with your little paper cards and try to grab that. You're like, it's just out there.
Mm-hmm. So you're a mosquito in a nudist colony of opportunity.
Exactly. But you've taken, like, so for those techie people like me that like processes and technology, and then you're able to help marry this, like, conversation piece. And so I love that you're bringing that together for us to have those pieces. So Kevin, for people out there who are listening that want to get a hold of you and want to do that one-on-one, I did it, so I would highly recommend it for anybody. How do they get a hold of you?
They can't. I'm in the witness relocation program. No, I came out of the witness relocation program a long time ago. If they go on LinkedIn and they type in Kevin Knebl, Knebl is 5 letters, Knebl. Could I please buy another vowel? Even I put another vowel in it after a couple of Merlots. If they go on LinkedIn, they can find me on LinkedIn. They can go to my website, kevinknebl.com. They can find me on Facebook, Twitter. I'm on all the socials. I'm easily findable. You just either go to my website or just go to LinkedIn. As a gift to your viewers, if they send me an invitation to connect on LinkedIn and mention that they watch this interview, I will be happy to accept their LinkedIn invitation, which will actually add a lot of connections to their network. They might not fully understand what I just said there, but it's good.
Wow.
So, please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, but I'm happy to answer any questions. I build some time into my calendar every day that I'm not traveling or on stage to actually pay it forward, do a little pro bono coaching, helping. So if anybody has any questions, I'm a phone call or an email or a text message away.
Wonderful, Kevin. And for those folks listening, definitely take advantage and send Kevin an invite, because that is a big gift that he just gave you right there. And Kevin, thank you for sharing that. So everyone who's out there that wants to build that relationship piece, because you want your business to be fun. You want to work with the people that want to work with you. And I mean, life is too short. Let's make it all as much fun as possible. So don't forget, if you're watching this interview, you can share it with friends who may have not been able to listen in today. And if you're like me, you're probably going to go back and re-listen so that you can take notes. A lot of good content here. And I'm really looking forward to sharing our next show with you. So can't wait to hear about all your success. Thank you for watching. Talk with you later. Bye-bye.
Bye, Tara.